What's going on, everyone? Good to see every single last one of you. I have been feeling it pretty hard, but you know what's feeling it pretty good? Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin back up over 65 as we're speaking, starting to flirt with $66,000. How much higher, though, can it go? And what all are the catalysts going into this bullish price action? We're going to cover that and a whole lot more. I think we're going to have Caleb Franzen join the show today. It is Wednesday. There's an off chance for some reason he's not able to make it, but even if he doesn't, the show will go on. You guys picked a good one today. Stick around for the entire video. Let's roll that intro.
Yeah, we got the bros back.
Somewhat, thank you to everybody who has stuck with us through this. This has been a rough little bit. I mean, I missed shows because of Brody last week, and then I get strep throat on Sunday, like Sunday night. Those you don't know what strep throat is, or maybe it's been a while since you experienced it. It's really crazy. Like mine's not even that bad. It's like one little spot. Like if you could like pinpoint just one little spot on the end of this pen, there's a spot in the back of my throat here on the left side that, based off of what I say or do, it literally feels like someone has a screwdriver and they're just shoving it into that part of the neck. So it has been not a very fun week. Trust me, I would have rather been here, but there was literally days where anything more than one sentence and my entire throat was on fire. So thank you everyone for staying with me. I'm not all the way back yet. You guys see me. I'm at home. I'm not trying to infect people at the office. I don't know when I'll be back in office necessarily, and I'm probably going to allow T-Shroom to do a lot of speaking today to continue to rest my voice. But that does not stop the charts from moving. T-Shroom, how have you, like, let's just kind of wrap up this week, even for me and maybe other people. How has this week kind of gone in a nutshell? Give me a 20-second run through. Also, how are you doing today?
Well, Tim, I'm doing better than I deserve. The bros, we've been rocking out. We've been patient, right? There's been a lot of boring side action. We did get a very big headline 2 days ago that the Wisconsin Pension Board has taken an allocation into IBIT and GBTC. In my eyes, that's a huge headline, right? Because that's the first American state pension fund that is showing an allocation on their F-13 forms. That's no small deal, right? That's a pretty big deal for sure.
Yeah.
And then we had, today we got the CPI print that was bullish. Ultimately, the market is interpreting it as bullish, and the market is repricing Bitcoin to the upside, right? We've seen descending wedge after descending wedge break up, and then retest, but then fizzle out on the breakout. So that's been disappointing. So it's really, really nice to see finally a breakout and getting back up above, I believe, 65,000. So very exciting. And it looks like we will be joined by our favorite European friend, Caleb Franzen. So that's going to be nice as well.
Ooh,
but yeah, that's what I'm rocking with. Have you been able to keep your eyes on the charts at all?
Oh, okay. So even though I have not been on camera, I've been still working as best I can, staying involved in Discord, watching the charts. Again, this is kind of stuff that I was watching. I wasn't necessarily too like bullish on this yet. If you go to my screen here, you guys will remember I kind of talked about once T-Shroom goes to my screen here, but
there we go. All the buttons. Stand by. We're all having fun. There's Caleb. We'll introduce you here in a second, Caleb. Unfortunately, this is the way that the screen's set up. Good. Go ahead, Tim.
You share my screen.
It is not shared yet, and I apologize. All right, there we go. Now we're cooking.
Oh, there's Caleb down there. Yeah. So, what's going on, man? This back here, I actually put a tweet out here back on the 6th. I put a tweet out like, "Hey guys, we're back up here at resistance. Can we make a breakthrough?" Usually when these break through, it has a pretty good bullish pop out to the upside based off these ascending channels. But I wasn't necessarily quite ready for it yet. When we found support, though, down here towards 60,000, and I told you guys, after we hit this 57, 56.6, I felt really good about being bullish. That didn't mean I didn't think any pullbacks were going to happen, but I did feel very bullish that there's a decent chance the 56.6 that we experienced back on May 1st really was and is going to be the bottom of this pullback. Is there a chance we go lower? Absolutely, there's a chance. But I felt good about this. And we've now wrestled with this level of resistance several times, testing it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally on the fifth wave of testing this whole zone, we have broken to the upside. Just so you guys kind of have some targets in play. And again, we'll discuss this more, and I can't wait to get Caleb's take here in just a second. But there's a couple things I'm watching here. We, of course, are in the take profit right now on the 4-hour chart. And there's an order block that looks very interesting at about 67,000, give or take. That's going to be an interesting spot to keep an eye on the short-term moves. But if we were going to look at more longer-term moves, these channels like this, what you do is you take the opening of the channel and then you move that same line to the breakout spot. This would give Bitcoin a price back up almost to that $71,000 range. Those you have been watching for a while, you remember this zone I drew back before the halving event, before April 19th. I talked about this yellow box of where the majority of Bitcoin's money would be flowing, I believe, throughout the summer pretty much. And guess where the top of that yellow box is? Right there on that $71,000 level, the same place that this breakout for the channel is kind of calling for. So I kind of have those two next levels. Kind of short-term bullish, would not be surprised, everybody, if we do see maybe rejection here around 66, 8, 67, maybe a pullback down to what now is a breaker block back down here, a little bit below 64,000. But then Bitcoin easily could make a move back up, pushing closer above, and maybe quite to 71,000 is the area I'm kind of watching over the next couple of weeks. Another reason I'm really bullish right now on Bitcoin, and I put this in our trading group earlier today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to charts. Cannot wait to get into all this conversation. But this is very, very bullish. I want to see what the next couple of days look like. But Bitcoin, after being in a sell order since way back on April 15th, has printed a bullish signal. Now it's only a 1, so let's not get crazy bullish here. But this is the first time we've seen this in a while. Again, guess where we have smart trails coming back up here in the higher $68,000 levels. This is the first, I think, going to be legitimate bullish call since way back here in February. We did have a print back in April, but anyone who was watching the show when this printed, I told you guys there were some things about that signal I did not like. I thought that was going to be a fake signal, whereas this one right here has some room to grow. So this is giving me a lot of different things between the 4-hour and the daily chart, giving me some optimism about this breakout and this bullish pump. Not necessarily ready for brand new all-time highs just yet, but definitely ready to get out of this slump on the lower $60,000 level. I do think it's a reasonable expectation within the next couple of weeks that we start to retest the top ends of this zone again, pushing towards 70,000. That's what I'm keeping an eye on. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not necessarily believing that when we hit 70K, that means, all right, boom, that's it. Bull market back on. We're hitting new all-time highs in the next couple of days. I think there will be another rejection up here towards $70,000 to $71,000, and potentially we come back down and retest lower 60s once again. We'll get into that more later, though. That's your kind of quick fly-by TA, and I have not been able to do it for a while because of being sick. But Caleb, my man, how are you doing? How are you feeling over there in Europe?
Guys, first of all, I need to apologize. I was on a FaceTime with my good friend in California, and I lost track of time. And I was like, oh my God, the show is starting. So I do really apologize for being a few minutes late. As always, really excited to be here on Wednesday. CPI day is like my Super Bowl, and we're also seeing a Bitcoin breakout. I mean, what's not to like?
This is where we earn our weight in gold. I mean Bitcoin. I mean gold.
There we go.
Gotta love it. Cool. Glad to have you on. Absolutely. And anytime, running late, whatever, as long as you join us, we absolutely love it. And no worries at all.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, before we get into more meat and potatoes of the show, first of all, again, especially when you're sick, the Bros are the #1 crypto YouTube channel that supports hydration. I got some Gatorade here, but I also have my electrolyte water, LMNT. We're not sponsored, but we are sponsored by hydration. Every single day, I get free water right out of the tap. That's sponsorship right there.
That's right. The city of Atlanta.
No, we're also we're gonna start doing this more often. We're gonna start promoting some of our channel sponsors earlier in the show. And some people might not like it, but I'm telling you guys right now, if it weren't for some of our channel sponsors and partners, we would not be able to continue to give you guys these great shows. So today, the show is brought to you guys by Blofin. We haven't talked about Blofin a lot recently, but they are our trading partner. And there's a really cool competition we have going on for our community. T-shirt, if you want to bring up that slide, I want to walk people through here. You guys can have the opportunity to win a part of $500,000 prize coming based off the Champions League's final. You can predict who you think will win. That the championship happens on June 1st. That is T-Shroom's wedding day. So you guys put on your calendar. You can win $500,000 and wish T-Shroom a happy wedding day. If you're wondering how you can enter, scroll on down there just for a second there, T-Shroom. There's a couple different ways. One way, and you can earn up to 10 different points to be able to put your vote in, is just by depositing $500,000 to USDT into your futures account. So that means, 500 gets you 1 point. Obviously, 5,000, you can deposit up to 5,000, get 10 points. You also can trade. So every single $10,000 of volume you trade with gets you another point as well. You also can invite some of your friends. So share the link with them, share your link, get them to put your name down there, and you can gain some points as well. Shout out to Blofin. They have been our trading partner now for a while. And by the way, again, we talked about this in our VIP trading group, but we closed some pretty good trades, some shorts on Ondo and Render earlier today. Not quite to the same level we wanted to get to, but we were in some shorts since last week. They were beautiful. I know the one I was in, I profited, I think, upwards of 50% on Ondo. I think I was at 40% on Render. But of course, when this morning news came out, and we're going to get into this with the man himself, he is our macroeconomics guy. When we saw those favorable CPI numbers, I let the VIP trading group know, all right, guys, good enough. Go ahead and take profit on these trades, and where the price is going to go to the upside. It was a great decision. So make sure, if you guys want to be a part of that trading group, two different ways to do it. One, you can purchase Lux Augu with our link down below. The other is you can join the diamond level of membership, and I will get you into that trading group. Let's get into some of the news here. And I told you guys I'm talking a lot more than I thought I was. I want T-Shroom to talk more, but I'm going to lead us off, and then T-Shroom's going to talk more than me. Caleb, the CPI data this morning, or the core inflation data this morning. A, are you surprised by it? And B, what does this mean longer term? Is this something we should be really excited about, or is this just one set of data numbers and people are kind of overreacting to it?
So was I surprised by it? In some ways, yes. In other ways, no, right? Because think about it. We got PPI data that came in yesterday, also for the month of April, and that came in a little bit hotter than expected. So for us to get the CPI today and for that to come in cooler than expected on a month over month basis, I think that's a pretty interesting little bit of a divergence right there. The thing is, when we're looking at year over year components here, whether it's for headline CPI or core CPI, that came in perfectly in line with estimates, right? I think one of the things that's also really adding a lot of fuel to the fire that's being really kind of swept under the rug today is the fact that retail sales was a big miss. I think estimates were expecting retail sales to come in at 0.4% month over month growth. We came in flat, 0.0%. And that's down versus 0.6%, there it is, in the prior month. So the fact that we're getting such a significant miss there on retail sales, which by the way are always going to be, first of all, very seasonally impacted and very volatile, right? We saw a lot of really bad retail sales reports come out last year. Bears were taking victory laps saying everything's going to tank. It never happened, right? So I don't want to make this sound like a really bad piece of data. If anything, what it does help us to show, though, is that in many aspects, the economy does continue to soften. That doesn't mean it's not still resilient and dynamic. It is, but this kind of softness, this is something I've been talking about since November. Softness is not weakness, and softness is actually bullish, right? So we're seeing that follow through kind of come into the market today. One of the things that has been really interesting for me, at least so far this year in 2024, has been the fact that, from my view, the market has been moving much more on month over month headline CPI data. For me personally, I don't necessarily think that that's the most important data point, but I know for a fact that's what the market is really responding to the most. So let me just say this I'll make a final point on that. Does the Fed target month over month inflation, or do they target year over year inflation? They target year over year. Their 2% target is year over year inflation. So for me personally, I want to continue to validate that the disinflationary trend is coming back into the market, right? Because for the past 3 months, what we've seen is that disinflation has basically stopped, right? The rates of inflation have stabilized and or in some components really started to reaccelerate. We need to see those disinflationary forces really come back full force into the market. I think the fact that crude oil is down more than 10% off the highs 1 month ago is super substantial. We continue to see shelter disinflate. We continue to see headline CPI X energy disinflate. We continue to see headline CPI X shelter disinflate. This is great news, right? So we need to continue to see follow through in the months ahead. One of the things I had said earlier this morning as well is the Fed views the CPI print and in many ways the PPI print as being very constructive, right? This is progress from the Fed's eyes. Is it sufficient progress for them to cut rates? Absolutely not. They still need to see more data. We had Kashkari make some statements about that earlier this morning, but I don't want people to get this confused. This is progress that the Fed wants and needs to see.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Kashkari because I don't know if you guys saw my tweet, but I have sold all my Bitcoin because of what Kashkari said. So I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Kashkari, Federal Reserve chairman there, not the chairman, but he's a seat holder, says Bitcoin has little practical use and it's not an investment vehicle or a currency. So I just hit the sell button on Bitcoin. I mean, cleared it off my cold wallet and it's gone. So obviously we're having a little joke, having a little fun. But yeah, I think that this CPI print here, it's clearly being interpreted by the market as bullish. To me, there's always data below the print. And that's kind of what I was hoping to chat a little bit about today. And it sounds to me like, what you're seeing is continued disinflation effects that we've been expecting and continuing to see month over month. And, at this point, we've been seeing on an annualized basis inflation come down as well. And but it's just not enough. It's just not enough for the Fed to feel confident about going ahead and signaling a cut in the near future. In fact, it seems like they're still kind of sticking to their guns that is not going to be the case, and that 2025 may be the earliest that we get a cut. So that's been my interpretation. But clearly, the market is saying, "Cool, that's certainty. We're gonna take risk on." And the status quo is 5.5 in federal funds rate, and we're going to run with it. Here we go. Takes two to tango.
One of the things that I've been saying, as you guys know, is that the market is not priced for cuts over the next 6 months, right? So we can talk about Fed funds futures. We can talk about Fed swaps. We can talk about all this stuff. The market is not priced based on Fed funds futures. The market is not priced based on the CME FedWatch tool. The market is being priced in a lot of ways by the 6-month Treasury yield, right? And other yields, of course. But that 6-month yield is very important. So there's been a lot of rumors that this decline in the stock market and this decline in Bitcoin and crypto has been in part due to rate cuts being pushed further out into the future and expecting those rate cuts to happen later on and with less of a magnitude than initially expected. But like I've been saying, the market was never priced for cuts in the first place. So how could the market be falling based on cuts if it was never priced for cuts to begin with? It's impossible, right? And so today, what are we seeing? We're seeing the stock market break to new all-time highs, both the S&P and the NASDAQ. Dow Jones retesting the all-time highs from April, right? So the market has come roaring back here. The VIX crashing today. Bonds moving higher in terms of actual treasury valuations, which means that yields are moving lower, right? So this is a lot of progress that's taking place on the long end of the curve, which really does help to boost asset prices. And so when we're seeing these dynamics take place, and now we're seeing crypto really start to finally participate into the upside. One of the things it's like, man, I sound like such a broken record when I say this, but we've needed to see constructive dynamics shift into outright bullish dynamics. We've seen that now in the stock market for the past week and a half to 2 weeks. We've made that shift from constructive to outright bullish. Now we need to see that ripple again into Bitcoin and into crypto. And again, I think the fact that we're breaking above the 4-hour 200 moving average cloud today is super important. For me, my line in the sand was 63,500. I wanted to see a 4-hour close above there. We got that at 12 p.m. Eastern time today. And we continue to push a little bit higher here, right? I think one thing that's been super interesting to me today is the fact that Bitcoin dominance is also making a massive move higher. I know Tim has been all over BTCD, but I think that's very telling, right? So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we see BTCD make a higher high in the days or week ahead, at which point we're going to cool off. We're going to have an opportunity to make a higher low. That hopefully is when we see the market really broaden out into altcoins and further out onto the risk curve within the crypto ecosystem on the back of a strong stock market and on the back of soft, not deteriorating economic data.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Any of that news to you, Tim? I know you've been kind of in a little bit of a kind of out of the loop in your hibernation phase of this sickness. Is any of this kind of catching you by surprise, making you think, interesting thoughts about forecasts of different assets?
No, no. Again, I've been kind of watching the charts, and Caleb's right on. Like I've been tracking this Bitcoin dominance now. You guys know for a while, and I'm just gonna continue to hold on. I was wrong. I was wrong about it hitting 60% before the halving event, right? So I got that one wrong, or sorry, not having it before hitting new all-time highs, but I still am holding on to that precipice time-wise. It's not the right time just yet for the Bitcoin dominance top to be in yet. It's not altcoin season. That time will come. And something we're looking at here, and Caleb's kind of pointing out here, look at my screen, T-Shroom. Bitcoin dominance is climbing right now. This is very good stuff. I was taking a look at moving averages too. But this is happening during bullish price action. And again, sometimes the biggest moves for Bitcoin dominance does not come during positive movements. It comes during negative movements where money flows out of crypto as a whole. It just flows more out of the altcoins than Bitcoin. So you see these waves happen in the past where Bitcoin outpaces the rest of the market. There's a lot of money flowing into Bitcoin right now. And that's why Bitcoin dominance is climbing, despite the fact that there's just a sea of green over here behind Caleb and T-Shroom's heads. Just kind of trust me for that one. A lot of green over here, but there's just a lot more money flowing into Bitcoin. And then guess what, guys? What's going to happen is when the market's ready to cool off and correct, even though all this money is flowing into Bitcoin, it'll start to flow out. People will take profits on Bitcoin, but they're going to do the same thing with altcoins. And we can get more into this later in the Q&A, but I wanted to show you guys some basic stuff we're looking here with some altcoins. Take a look. Bitcoin kind of doing something different. Bitcoin breaking out of a range that has further room to the upside and more support like beneath it. You start to look at some of these altcoins, and yeah, they're moving, but look at Solana. This big breakup for Solana coming back up into a nice zone of resistance here in the $160 range. You take a look at Chainlink. Coming back up here, about to take the smart trail concept, but still very much within its own channel of its own. We could get as high as 1430, and we're still not talking about breaking out of any gigantic formation. Cardano is sitting here at 44 cents, but even if it keeps on rallying here, look at this long-term resistance level it's having to deal with. It's going to take a lot to break out above that 47, 48 cent zone. Even AVAX here, big pump on AVAX, but look at how far it is down from the more recent peak here. This is just showing you signs that the altcoins aren't not doing as well as Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, again, I'm still predicting, again, I've said this before, and you guys will hear me say it 1,000 times more. Get ready for the choppiness sideways. I made a joke tweet earlier today that we're getting this great news, but sometime within the next 7 days, Gary Gensler is going to decide to make it all about him again, and he's going to say something that floods the market, and Bitcoin's going to tumble right back down. Do we get to 70,000 first? Do we only make it to about 67? I don't know. But what I do know is when you zoom out here, this is still going as according to what I told you guys would happen, where Bitcoin really goes sideways. Altcoins kind of stay in this downward motion. This is Ethereum. This is Solana. This is Cardano. Look at all of these coins. They're having these pretty big pullbacks. And I don't think necessarily it's time for the altcoins to have these miraculous breakouts just yet. Look for them to have their own little ranging lower high, lower low situation while Bitcoin just sets these sideways highs and sideways lows for the next couple of months. It's gonna be hard. Some people are gonna get discouraged. Some people are gonna start to believe the stories of the bears. But this is just how the crypto markets like to play out in anticipation of the explosive bull market that comes later on this year.
Yeah. And my altcoins that I've been hodling since the bear market, they've come down, right? And I've seen some significant gains get retraced, but those are in a hodl bag. Those are in a bag where I'm not using that liquidity to trade, so I don't treat it like a trade, right? If something fundamentally changes about that investment, then I would make a change. But at this point, I'm still as bullish for the bull run on AVAX, Chainlink, Cardano as I was accumulating it in the bear market. Look, if I can accumulate these assets in the bear market where everybody is hating on it, including my family, including my people who I care about, I can buy it here, or I can hold it here while I'm in profit at least. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, and altcoins are going to do well, right? It's just Bitcoin historically is going to do well first, and then altcoins will follow, and it'll be alt season, if that's a term that might be new to you. So new to you out there watching. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Make sure that you're smashing the like buttons and leaving some comments. If you have any questions for us, we'll be happy to answer them. We've got some stories, but I have a feeling that we're not quite done squeezing the lemon on this initial analysis. In general, what are your thoughts here on the altcoins, Caleb? Are you seeing them outpace Bitcoin anytime soon? Are you seeing them kind of remain in the historical norm of losing dominance to Bitcoin in this next leg up for Bitcoin, if this is the next leg up? Just what are your overall thoughts on altcoins here?
Look, my general opinion has been that the cycle peak is not in, right? And so I did a post about it earlier this morning. There are almost everything needs to gain. We're talking about altcoins here. Almost everything needs to gain between 50% and 150% to make new cycle highs, not new all-time highs, new cycle highs, right? And a lot of those cycle highs came in basically like February and March, right? Pretty much across the board. And so I think, look, I've still been in that Solana position from when I talked about it on the show, when I entered it at 121. I think T-Shroom, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about a render opportunity, right? Yep. And I mean, this has been a name that I continue to kind of pound the table on and really watch as an opportunity set. If you want to share my screen on it here, I was highlighting when we came into this red range, right? And we started to see some lift off that level. I wasn't even in the position yet, but I was building one out here on a retest of the AVWAP off the lows, right? So I put an AVWAP on those May 1st lows, the same way that I put an AVWAP on Solana the May 1st lows, right? And we've been able to hold that level on Solana beautifully, right? Hasn't been perfect. We had a little bit of a scary breakdown right there, but we were able to snap right back, right? So I've been able to stay in this. I want to go back to that render chart, but one thing I'm looking at here on Solana is we're also coming into the AVWAP from those 204 highs, right? Not the cycle highs, which came in at 209, but I think this one right here was a key pivot level falling from 204 swiftly to 122. That was a massive decline here, right? So there's going to be a lot of price memory in this market pocket, which is why this AVWAP, the anchored volume weighted average price, we're basically putting a volume weighted moving average to a specific level and saying, what is price memory? This is telling us what price memory is. So if we can, look, we're pushing into that zone right now. You can see it act as resistance during almost all of these peak levels. So if we can break and hold above this, obviously we're going to have some work to do. We're going to grapple with this bigger green zone here. But the point is, Render was doing something very similar here, as were a lot of other kind of leading positions trying the rebound on the AVWAP from those May 1st lows. And so now where are we getting rejected? The AVWAP from a really kind of short-term basis here, right? From the May 10th highs and the May 13th highs. So I'm not surprised to see us cool off here. Again, we're going to need to see the market ripple further out, right? We're going to need to see risk appetite continue to increase. I think Bitcoin is giving the market a thumbs up here, but investors have a lot of PTSD. I have a lot of PTSD over the dynamics that have taken place in this market over the course of the past 6 to 8 weeks, right? And so the market is going to want to feel like a larger move has taken place in order to give them the confidence to step back into the market, right? So I don't know what level that's going to come in. I do not know. If anyone tells you, it's BS, right? Don't listen to what anyone says about, oh, this is the level, right? I think we can identify that for Bitcoin or maybe for some specific altcoins, right? Like I'm saying, we need to see Render break above this level, make new highs here above 1150, and let's see that ripple back and make a thrust back to the 13s again, right? So we can look at some of these individual levels here, but when we think about what is the level that Bitcoin needs to reach, or what is the level that the stock market needs to reach in order for risk appetite to increase and for investors to feel confident to move further out no one knows. We don't know what level that's going to be. Do I think it's going to come? Yes. When? I don't know. At what price? I have no idea. It's going to be on a chart-to-chart basis, day-to-day basis. We're just going to need to analyze the data, analyze the charts in front of us. One of the things I've been saying so often is I don't want to speculate on what the trend might be 2 weeks down the line. I don't want to speculate on what the trend might be 1 month down the line. I want to be involved with the top trends in the market right here, right now. And so for me, what have those been? It's been things like Render. It's been things like FET. It's been things like Solana. Some of these meme coins, they continue to show a lot of leadership in this market. I haven't been involved with any of them, but I have all of them on my watch list, right? So I think for me right now, those are the key pockets of strength. Bitcoin, Ethereum, oddly enough, Solana, meme coins, and the AI tokens.
I like it. And here's the thing, because I see how Chad is kind of going back and forth and stuff Caleb's talking about there. If you guys are waiting for some form of a symbol to trigger and say this is the beginning of altcoin season. If you're waiting for that, you're going to catch the wave too late. The wave will come, but it's going to come, to put in a biblical sense, like a thief in the night. There's not
Nice.
going to be trumpets blaring. Hey guys, 24-hour warning, alt season coming. Alts are going to blow up. It's just going to, out of nowhere, we're going to wake up one day and all of a sudden, Bitcoin's up 10% that day, but these other altcoins are up 30%. And then they're just going parabolic, and everyone thinks that they're going to sell it, but then there becomes this just massive short squeeze. If you go back and look at the price actions of what happened back in 2020, the end of 2020, early 2021, when alt season started, there was no basic news catalyst. There was no grand announcement. It's literally just something that happens, boom, because of the confidence in not only Bitcoin, but in the market as a whole. So the best thing you can do if you're sitting here saying, how do I prepare for altcoin season? Well, we just told you, Bitcoin right now is going sideways. Altcoins, for the most part, are still studying these lower highs and lower lows. They're down. I think Caleb even put a tweet out. I think this was you, Caleb, that put a tweet out earlier today about how many coins, a lot of the bigger coins, how much they need to pump to get back to cycle highs. We're not even talking about new all-time highs. We're talking about cycle highs. And there's a lot of those coins that need to pump like 100 to 200% just to get back to cycle highs. Those are the types of coins you need to be jumping on now. Why? Because they showed you the strength of their initial movement this cycle. They've had massive sell-offs and they've cooled off, but you buy those coins now when it's not altcoin season, when they're down in the gutter, when no one wants to talk about them. Because I guarantee you, if you're waiting for people to start talking about a coin to buy it, you're waiting to buy a coin way too late. Now, that's what I'm talking about for being more aggressive. Of course, there still is the more conservative strategy of saying, hey, I want to wait to see these things hit certain bullish metrics, confirm that they're bullish again, and then I want to buy into their strength. You can do that. That's a fine scenario. But I'm saying for those of you who are like, man, how do I know when it's time to start buying altcoins? You need to buy when there's blood in the streets. And right now, when it comes to altcoins, T-Shroom just scrolled through that list that Caleb gave you guys. He just gave you a list of altcoins and showed you how much blood is sitting in the streets. I'm not saying buy a coin because it's on Caleb's list. I don't think Caleb's saying that either. But he just wanted you to see that. And I want you guys to see these coins have fantastic opportunity in the future. It's just not their season just yet. But that doesn't mean you don't think about them right now. The best time when you want to move stealthily against the market, the best time to be buying an asset is when no one else is talking about it. Because once everybody starts talking about it, you've probably missed out on a decent amount of gains.
Yeah, absolutely. And we referenced Caleb's Twitter. Go and follow him. He is an analyst on Twitter. So he's changed your bio. I like that. Keeping it simple, keeping it minimal. But this is what you're looking for here. We have links for him in the description of this video. They are down there right now. You can also check out his Substack, which is a phenomenal newsletter that has just absolutely packed with alpha. I will add my 2 cents to the conversation here on altcoin season. For those of you who are interested in altcoins, you can take a screenshot of this and reference it. I think I got this originally from Altcoin Daily, had posted on Twitter, but it's been around for a while. This essentially describes kind of in English when alt season can come. But notice very carefully, it's not a level. There's not a level here. It's not Ethereum at 4,000, right? That's not altcoin season. It's all in English, and I'll read you this part here that definitively says altcoin season phase 4, according to this chart. Of course, it's not going to be 1-to-1 this cycle. Regardless of market cap, some altcoins with strong fundamentals are having pumps, right? So it's vague, right? But it gives you an idea that when altcoin season is going to start. So just a little bit of seasoning to the stew of pontification on altcoins and their potential upsides. But I agree with you, Tim, and I agree with your tweet, Caleb. There's a lot of value out there right now. And if Warren Buffett appreciated crypto, right, he would be in here buying all kinds of altcoins that are undervalued relative maybe to the midline of their Bollinger Band on the monthly analysis, or just relative to Bitcoin, right, and relative to Bitcoin and Ethereum's movement in the cycle. So we scrolled through them already, but I'm ready to go ahead and jump on into the news. It's already a little bit more than halfway through the show, which is brought to you all today by who we trust, which is iTrustCapital for your tax-advantaged crypto holding accounts. You're going to absolutely love it. Free $100 when you sign up for iTrustCapital with the link down in the description. Of course, the headline of the day, here's the inflation breakdown for 2024. And I do like this quote here, this summation here from a Moody's analyst. Mark Zandi said the report is consistent with inflation, while still uncomfortably high, slowly back to earth. Right. So this is essentially, kind of what Wall Street is being fed today. And then you have a breakdown by commodity, kind of what's popping. I noticed juices and fruits are kind of up quite a bit here. I don't know if it's up 29% or what it is, but that's obviously sticking out there. Frankfurters up 7.1. The Frankfurter inflation narrative is a sleeper for sure. Video discs and other media, that's always a popular one with the kids, the Gen Z out there buying their video discs. But Caleb, it seemed like you had a little bit of a reaction to this commentary here from Chief Economic Analyst over at Moody's, Mark Zandi. What did you think about that there?
Just that opening line is still consistent with inflation. It's like you're saying something without really saying anything at all. Like, yes, of course, we still have inflation. The CPI, which is an index, consumer price index, is still moving higher, right? I think this is where like so many people get confused. Inflation is a derivative. It's a rate of change. We're measuring what something is now versus where it was at some point in the past, and we're calculating how much did it go up or go down, right? The original definition of inflation was inflation of the money supply. That's how we used to measure inflation. Then with Keynesian economics in the 1900s, we start thinking about inflation in terms of consumer prices, right? So we need to create a way to measure those consumer prices. Oh, we're going to create the consumer price index, right? And this basket of goods, we're going to measure the price of this basket of goods today versus what it was 1 month ago and versus what it was 1 year ago. And we're going to call that inflation. Guys, the CPI, the index itself, is programmed to go up forever. Consumer prices are not going to go down. Historically, they never go down. And when they do, it's for a very brief period of time, especially here in the US. The CPI, fiat systems, by design, are inflationary, right? It's literally part of the system. Like we talk about Bitcoin, programmatic monetary supply, right? Fiat is programmatic infinite money supply, right? It's like it's just going to keep going up. So by very nature, dollar-denominated consumer goods, dollar-denominated assets are going to go up in price over time, over the long run. So to say that it's consistent with inflation is just like, it doesn't even need to be said. Yes, we still have inflation, right? I don't want to
that's probably why Mark has been able to keep his job over at Moody's, because he's excellent at being, political speak and just being vague, walking that line. Don't want to upset Uncle Jerome, but I also want to stay bold, stay interesting to the market. So absolutely. Obviously, we know that there's not only decentralization in money, but also decentralization in media, right? These websites, while we still reference them and will be referencing them for probably years to come, websites like Bloomberg and CNBC are becoming less and less important as folks switch over to newsletters like Cubic Analytics, right? That you do, Caleb, and Investing Bros, other YouTube channels. It's just more palatable. It's written for millennials, right? It's written for people who actually care about their money and are awake and active investors and traders. It's not just Moody's who is engineering a financial crisis. Whoa, did I say that out loud? Oh, my bad. Well, if you look at what the rating agencies roll in 2008, there's some question marks there, definitely to be asked. Moving along, Tim, did you have anything to add to that, or are you going to preserve your throat on this one?
Yeah, I'm going to preserve.
I like it. You just get a little sign, preserve sign. Okay. You can now invest in a Bitcoin fund and earn yield in Nordic countries. I don't understand exactly how this works, but it's making its rounds around the media. And the question I have for you, Caleb and Tim, is does this change, is this potentially a new investment, a bull thesis for Bitcoin, or is this just kind of some PR that's making its way into the U.S.? Investors will get exposure to Bitcoin and earn up to 5.65 yields, so that's nothing to shake a stick at, right? If they can deliver on this, that is very attractive, very interesting to investors. They said we're thrilled.
Are you talking about in dollar amounts or in Bitcoin?
That's a good question. I don't know. We are thrilled to introduce the world's first yield-bearing Bitcoin ETP. So you're buying an ETP, exchange-traded product. This is like similar to an ETF. So it's not Bitcoin, right? Specifically, they're holding the Bitcoin for you and somehow giving you yield. I'm not exactly sure where that yield's coming from. Offering investors an unprecedented opportunity, certainly unprecedented, to gain exposure to Bitcoin while earning a substantial yield, says Oliver Rousset-Newton, CEO of DeFi Technologies, in a press release. Valor, Bitcoin staking ETP, embodies our commitment to innovation in the digital asset space. So again, don't know the business model behind this and how they're delivering that yield. Maybe it has to do with the bond market or something. Maybe it's a sovereign incentive to try to get people in Nordic countries to buy Bitcoin. But that would have had buy and hold. But that would have had a lot of unilateral coordination between sovereign nations, and I don't know that that's necessarily possible given the state of politics, even internationally. But anyway, do you guys think that this changes anything? Do you think that because it's only in the Norse countries, it's going to be contained to a smaller population? What are your thoughts on this? Or is it just PR shilling, trying to get people to move to Norway?
Personally, I think this is nothing in terms of the impact that it's going to have on markets. It's cool. It's great that people are going to be able to get exposure, generate a bit of a yield on it. I went to their website here, T-Stream. If you want to go to my screen, how is the yield generated under their FAQs? Yield is generated by delegating Bitcoins to a validator on the core chain through non-custodial native Bitcoin staking. The staked BTC receives staking rewards in the form of core tokens, which are then reinvested into the product. I've never heard of core tokens or core chain before. If you guys do, that's amazing. But it looks like that's how they're generating the 5% yield.
So core is a pretty legitimate product that we've seen a couple, be on the crypto bubbles chart here week after week. I don't actually see it today, but it'll be like up like 20% while the rest of the market's
there on the left, the top left, up 3.8% next to say. Higher left.
Still don't freaking see it. There we go.
There it is.
Yeah. So it's something that we've been tracking. Is it a good question to ask? Is it the same core token? Because as we know in crypto, you can make a token by accidentally burping right on the ERC20 chain. So that there's a lot of due diligence to look into this. The reason why I think it's interesting here, and I can see why this could easily be a PR, just pop and it should be downplayed and ignored, right? But if there is, what's happening here? I appreciate you doing that research, Caleb, because what that shows is that there's a project. This is a crypto project. Pure and simple coming in here, providing some, I wouldn't even call it necessarily innovation. There's probably some innovative technologies that are allowing for this on the core chain. But what this is, you're getting paid in core. Essentially, they're flipping, they're running some, the same type of situation over at the Fed. They're running some supply and demand dynamics on the back end with their blockchain for core in an effort to be able to deliver a yield. Is that sustainable is a good question to ask. And it makes sense that they're trying to roll it out on a small market first, a small market, a highly educated market in those Scandinavian countries so that they don't have a bunch of liability on their hands. But I do bring this up because I think it could change the game, right? If core is like a name, you fast forward 20 years and core is as ubiquitous as Bank of America and JP Morgan, which I'm definitely not saying that it is at this point, right? But if they end up going through the time machine and proving to have a lot of core value, right, real solid staying power, this could be a pretty big deal that Bitcoin could yield in addition to Ethereum. Obviously, there would be competitors to core that would just kind of copycat what they've been able to be successful with over there. I'm going to be watching this one closely because if you can get a yield on Bitcoin, that is going to attract investors that have stayed on the sidelines, namely Vanguard, right? Vanguard famously, the excuse they give is they don't want to give exposure to their clients because Bitcoin does not spin off any revenue. It'll be interesting to see how they answer that same question with Ethereum. Speaking of, got some breaking news on Vanguard. Incoming Vanguard CEO won't reverse decision not to launch Bitcoin ETF. Don't know why they had to put a double negative in there. But this story is moving quickly because it was only this morning that we even found out that the CEO was named for Vanguard. It is this gentleman, Salim Ramji. And he said, I think it's important for firms to have consistency in terms of what they stand for in the products and services they offer, said Salim. I have heard Greg Davis, the CIO, explanation, and I think it's entirely consistent with Vanguard's investment philosophy. It is a logical and consistent point of view. When he was asked about whether or not they would offer their own spot Bitcoin ETF, however, and interestingly as well, narrowly, he did not offer an explanation as to why they're not allowing their clients to own iBit or GBTC or others. So it was not so much Vanguard's decision not to launch its own Bitcoin ETF that caused so much chatter, but instead the company's move not to offer its clientele trading access to the numerous spot ETFs that became available on the 11th. So this is happened fast. There was a big opportunity for this to be very bullish for Bitcoin if Rami had answered this differently and said, actually, yeah, we're going full send on Bitcoin. Because after all, he is a hire from BlackRock, and he oversaw the ETF issue application and the issuance. He was the manager that made that happen. Was he the top guy? I'm not sure, right? But he's been working with a team that's very pro Bitcoin and pro Bitcoin ETFs. So then the question is he kind of fronting here? Is he kind of being a company man, but his motivations are clearly to be pro Bitcoin, or is he kind of going to fit the mold and he's just doing this for the nice job over there at Vanguard? Those are questions that we could potentially answer. I don't expect you all to have, some kind of unique insight on this, but what are your reactions overall? Do you think that Vanguard could be pro Bitcoin here in the next year or two?
So he just got hired as CEO?
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, it seems inconsistent to me, but I'll tell you this right now. It's a bet. Vanguard's making a bet right now that Bitcoin will fizzle out. It's a bad bet. It's a stupid bet. But if for some reason they're right and Bitcoin fizzles and all of us are wrong, Vanguard will look really good. They actually could potentially be the front-running investment firm. The problem is they're not going to be right. And I do think we're going to be watching the end of Van Eck unless they change their mind in the future. I think any financial
Vanguard.
Van Eck, Vanguard. You're right. Vanguard. Any institution that decides to turn its back on Bitcoin. Again, Bitcoin is going to be the future store of value and how the world does it. So they're going to turn their back on it. They're turning their back on value. They're turning their back on actually building wealth. And so I think that any company that takes this type of opinion, we're kind of watching their end days because they're refusing to move forward with the new times. That's a death wish for companies. You've seen it happen in other worlds when other companies refuse to acknowledge and invest in updated technology, they end up getting beaten by their competitors. It's not just about the finances. It's just about technology in general.
Right.
So Vanguard, I think unless they still have time to change their mind, but if they stay with this kind of principle, they're making a bet that Bitcoin won't work out. And in my personal opinion, that's a bad bet.
And I also read that they've implemented $100 leave our service fee. So they've had a huge outflux of folks leaving Vanguard because they can't get Bitcoin exposure. And that has been, documented as truth. And now they've put in a measure to kind of stem the flow of outflows from their AUM, and saying, yeah, if you want to leave, you gotta pay us $100, which is kind of crazy. I don't know how that works from a terms of service when they initially signed up for their accounts. But Caleb, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think about this new CEO? Is it kind of smoke and mirrors? Does it matter, or is there something here? Could we see a pro Bitcoin Vanguard pretty soon?
Probably not pretty soon, but give it a year, give it maybe 2. I think the fact that this guy's coming from BlackRock, I mean, the most elite and prestigious firm on Wall Street, essentially, probably a great hire. I think it's the first time they've hired an outside guy at Vanguard in the CEO position. So, I think in and of itself, that's already a sign that, change is coming, like from a cultural perspective at the company. I'm not surprised to hear his comments like immediately about Bitcoin ETF, so on and so forth. But it's just one of those things that just really does kind of seem inevitable, And so,
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's coming.
I like Tim. I like what you said. How if you're slow to adapt, you're going to get left behind. And Jim Cramer, who tunes in, he's a regular watching bro. He said blockbuster, which is exactly. And I'm not kidding. This is exactly what I was thinking when you made that statement, Tim. Is like, Netflix came in and they innovated, and Blockbuster had the business model running. I remember my dad would rent. Maybe you're watching, Dad. He would rent movies through Blockbuster, where you could like get a a video disc sent to your home, and we watched movies that way. So BlackRock, somebody at Blockbuster knew what they were doing, but they ultimately got stifled by probably a more conservative, older guard within Blockbuster's board saying, no, people are still going to go to physical locations. They're not going to use this internet thing to watch their videos. And now look at us, right? We're all watching Breaking Bad streaming. We're all watching, what's the latest thing people are watching? I like The Gentleman, right? You're watching the Champions League stuff. That's not a movie, so I'm going way off topic. All right.
The new House of Dragons is coming out, I think, next month. I'm going to sign up for HBO again.
Hey.
Very nice. I love it. That's actually exciting. Yeah, that is something to look forward to. What is Unchained was pretty good. This new prison one on Netflix. I always like the prison ones. Those are interesting social dynamics.
You know what I like is Love is Blind. I'm not going to lie.
gosh.
That's like my guilty pleasure. My ex-girlfriend got me into that show and I got hooked like immediately. And
I love it.
man, I got bit hard by Love is Blind.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, man, my fiance watches that pretty religiously. She was excited about the new season.
Yeah.
I watch it while I don't watch it directly. I watch it in the background, but it is very interesting.
Stop
especially
lying, T-Shroom. Come
T-Shroom
on, man.
holds the popcorn.
You're leading the slumber parties, man. You're getting all the girls, all the friends of your wife over. You know, everyone
right.
gets together at your
I
place.
started the group chat. When you guys are 5 minutes late, what the heck? We're gonna miss the premiere.
Oh, man.
Exactly. Tim, what are you watching on Netflix? I know you've had some time in your hands. You've been scrolling through TikTok or watching Netflix?
Yeah. Let's see. What do I watch? We just finished. My wife and I just finished Resident Alien on I think Netflix. It's an alien that comes down and he has to pretend to be a human and learn how to be a human and stuff. It's pretty funny. That's worth a watch.
Okay, I've seen the stuff for this.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I try to consume YouTube as much as possible. First of all, I think there's just a lot more creative people creating YouTube content these days than there are writers in Hollywood writing new TV shows and movies. I think there are some good ones coming out. I want to see the new 8 movie. My mom is coming to town here next week, so I think she'll be able to watch Brody, and Tay and I will have a date night, maybe go watch the new 8 movie. But as a whole, I have not been impressed with a lot of new movies and new TV shows. But there are some amazing creative content creators on YouTube, and I found myself here being sick. I already watched a lot of them, but I've been just going down the rabbit hole of Barstool Sports, the evolution of Barstool Sports, and how they built out their different communities and different things. And I'm falling in love with Big Cat. Anyone who watches Barstool, that's Dan. Big Cat is just his personality. Like, it's like he kind of takes things seriously, but he doesn't at the same time. His humor is just, in my eyes, top end. He has a good appreciation for what real humor is.
Well, you heard it here first. Speaking of Barstool, and we'll move on back into the crypto from here, bros. But apparently, Dave Portnoy has been hanging out with Janet Yellen's sister. There she is. Not her, but the one that looks like Janet Yellen. We're having fun. Okay. One last story of significance.
One more shameless plug. If anyone wants to be thoroughly entertained, I'm not even lying to you. I watched this when I wasn't familiar with the cast, so you don't have to know. You don't have to know the people. The Survivor series, especially the most recent one, the Barstool Survivor. Go watch it. I think you can only watch it on their website, barstool.com. It is a better show than Survivor itself. You heard it here first. Shameless plug. I'm not lying to you. If you want to be entertained, go watch this most recent season of Surviving Barstool.
It was presented by Factor. How much are they paying you,
It's one of the
Tim?
greatest things I've watched recently.
How much are they paying you? And how come you didn't run this deal through me?
I wish they were paying. I wish they were paying me.
One more story of note, and then we'll get into our Q&A time. We have a story of note and then a story of not note. It's just salacious, whatever. But here's the one of note. Robinhood Crypto launches staking in Europe with localized apps to follow. And this is a big story, in my opinion. It's a big middle finger to the SEC, I think, because starting today, Robinhood is introducing first ever crypto staking product, which will be available exclusively to their customers in Europe, not the United States. Robinhood crypto customers can now stake their Solana holdings directly through the app. I think it's just for Solana at this point, but this is huge. Just days after Robinhood received that Wells notice from the SEC, Gary Gensler coming knocking on the door. Hey, pay up. You're supposed to be, part of the Wall Street gang, and you're going countercultural here. What the heck? Here's a Wells notice. Get on your best behavior. Well, the CEO of Robinhood, he's not been quiet about this. He's been vocal. A couple members of the C-suite have absolutely condemned the SEC and their actions in the crypto industry. And now, they're saying, hey, U.S., you don't want to provide regulatory clarity. Well, we're going to go expand our operations in Europe. And I think that's exactly what this move signals. And hey, the Europeans are getting a great staking deal out of this. So what do you all think about this? Is it kind of as I've reported it, or is there maybe something even more interesting kind of lying at the surface of this?
No.
As you reported it, you know.
As I
Yeah.
reported. And
Yeah.
and Tim, are you preserving your throat? You're preserving.
I just so these types of things to me are not price moving concepts.
Right.
The only good side of them is it's just more crypto I don't think we should ever be upset about more crypto adoption, right? So I'm always going to love that. But if I'm running to go buy more crypto because of this news, I'm not expecting much to change in price action.
Right. No, I think this is absolutely much more of a higher level kind of, the whales thrashing around, not in like a buying or selling aspect, but just the future of regulatory clarity kind of being hashed out, that war being fought before our eyes. Bitcoin. Speaking of which, Bitcoin pushing up here, $66,000 on the Kraken exchange. Very very cool here. Same on Coinbase as well. In fact, we got a wick all the way up to 66,000. I want to call it 500, but it looks like we're just short of 66,005. One more story, bros, and this one's interesting. It's a little bit of a doozy. Just days after Andrew Tate said he's going to be cashing out 500,000 in Bitcoin to go all in on GameStop, just a day or two later, Andrew Tate says he's about to put 100 million in Bitcoin and leave fiat completely. Is he a flip-flopper here, or is he a badass leading the future of rebellion in the financial markets? And do we care?
And I'm pretty sure he's been on like the Bitcoin wave and crypto for a long time. Whether that's part of like a shtick or out of necessity for financial reasons, I have no idea. But yeah, I was probably just behind this picture out there in Bucharest. So
There you go.
I'm kidding. I did see them a couple of times in Bucharest.
You saw them?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Cool.
Did he tell you to buy GameStop?
He did not. No, he did not tell me to buy GME.
Tim, what do you think? You ready to get the Tate tattoo?
No, I'm not. I will say again, consuming YouTube here, I was listening to Tucker Carlson's podcast with,
I've heard of him.
I think his name's Tristan.
Okay.
I think the brother's name is Tristan.
Right.
Andrew Tate is he goes out of his way to be polarizing. There are clearly things he thinks that I disagree with. There's things he thinks that I agree with. Is he unfairly treated by the majority of the world? Yeah, probably. But here's what you got to say about Andrew. Andrew is a jerk. I mean, he doesn't even hide from it. His personality is kind of that rough, outgoing, I don't care who I piss off, yada, yada. Whereas I found Tristan interesting. And I don't know much about him, but he seems like he thinks about what he says a lot more than Andrew does. Andrew just speaks and just lets stuff come out. Whatever is coming on in his head, he just says it. Tristan came across much more like somebody who thinks very deeply before he says what he says. He has a good, firm reason for everything he does believe in. I'm sure there's going to be things he thinks that I disagree with, just like most people. I don't think there's any person in this world that two people that agree 100% on everything. But I thought that was interesting. As far as this, though, I don't think anyone should invest ever based off of a celebrity, and I don't care what their role is. Don't buy or sell because a celebrity is buying or selling, especially if they're the ones telling you they're buying or selling. If we found out, like when you find out that Nancy Pelosi invested $100 million into something, well, she didn't announce that. It just got disclosed. Maybe then you want to use that information for buying. But any influencer or any celebrity who goes on, like massive celebrity like this, that goes on and says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Well, it's really hard to know what their true implications are and how much they're trying to manipulate the market. And so when I hear Andrew Tate give financial advice, that goes in one ear and out the other, as it does with almost any celebrity who tries to talk about what they're going to buy and what they're going to sell.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, I went ahead and called my local tattoo parlor, and I'm getting the Bitcoin Tate tattoo installed later today on my left thigh. And I don't care what you guys say. I'm doing it. We're going to have some fun. All right. Well, speaking of having fun, let us know. What are your questions for Caleb? Probably hold off on questions for Tim so that he can preserve his voice and everything like that.
Sting, like that little
that little sting. Yeah.
I feel like someone's stabbing me in the throat at the moment. So it's
Well, you're not too late. If you wanted to ask us any questions, definitely shoot them our way now in the chat. Spooky Spoon said, "I love The Gentleman. It was so good." Yeah, I'm watching The Gentleman right now. Back to the Netflix chat, but MSTR, we are so back. MSTR coin definitely looking good. I know, Caleb, you posted a pretty bullish looking chart today on MSTR MicroStrategies. So that's pretty awesome. Drew P said he wants his 35 cents back, Bozo. I don't know what that's in reference to, but it sounds like you're having a wacky time today, Drew P. Worrying about 35 cents. Very cool. Not seeing too many questions yet, but are you still in Bucharest, Caleb? Oh, go ahead.
I'm in Montenegro right now. I'm in Budva, Montenegro.
Beautiful.
I saw a question here from B-Ball Golf 72. Why do we care about non-farm payroll, yet nobody is talking about non-governmental payrolls? Seems like non-governmental payroll should matter a lot. T-Shroom, go to my screen, please. Yes, it should matter a lot. It does matter a lot. And what's happening? If we look at the indexes of aggregate weekly payrolls of all employees, total private, so this is non-governmental jobs. This index, which is of aggregate weekly payrolls, is at all-time highs, essentially, right? Wow. So, when we talk about private payrolls or, oh, the government is fudging the numbers or, oh, these are all government jobs or, oh, these are all part-time jobs. I mean, first of all, they're not even all part-time jobs. If we go to multiple job holders as a percent, it was just there. Hold on. Multiple job holders as a percent of the employed, 5.2% of people who are employed work more than one job. Right? And we're trading at or below the pre-COVID levels, right? Certainly it's been rising since the COVID collapse, right? A lot of people, particularly in service type jobs, got laid off from multiple jobs. And so that percentage fell considerably, right? And now it's been climbing back since. But we're trading at normal levels that are consistent with pre-COVID, that are consistent with pre-GFC, which are consistent with pre.com, even lower. Look, in 1996, there were 6.5% of people who were employed worked more than one job. Today, it's 5.2%. Right? So, I mean, let's say focus here on the private payroll data. There's nothing about this inherently that's alarming or saying, oh, it's all government jobs or it's only teachers or, oh, it's people working a bunch of new positions in terms of service workers. It's just not true. If we look at ADP private payrolls, let's see if they have that on here. Total non-farm private payroll employment. This is at all-time highs. What are we talking about? Right? So yes, this data point matters and it's at all-time highs. Right? Maybe it's not growing as fast as total non-farm is, right? Including public government jobs, but it's still growing. It's trending up and to the right. It's still growing, right? So again, I don't want to let perfect be the enemy of good. For some reason, there's this total misconception being perpetrated by a lot of doomers on X, on YouTube, so on and so forth, that, oh, private payrolls are contracting. It's all just government data, mucking everything up, trying to conflate the numbers. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I saw a combination of questions kind of asking Caleb what he thought the market top was going to be. I'm assuming they're going to be asking a little bit of both. Caleb, you were on here. You talked about 175K for Bitcoin was your target, correct? Is that still your target at this point?
Still the target. Yep. And like when I first published that back in November or, the second half of last year, a lot of people were saying, when, like, what's the timeline? First of all, does it matter? Right? We're talking about going from 50,000 to 175K. We're talking about when, like, let's just, it's already a big bet anyways. And there's, in my opinion, nothing about this recent decline, nothing about the fact that we made new all-time highs before the halving. None of that changes anything. It's a 161.8% price target from the former bull market highs to the recent bear market lows. Look at the 161.8% in logarithmic scale, gets you right to 175,000. And every bull market in history has gone back to that 161.8% target from the prior cycle highs to the bear market lows. Oftentimes we've exceeded that level. So when people really kind of press me on this, I say, look, I'm saying my target is at least 175K. We can certainly go higher than that, but at a bare minimum, that's where I expect us to go.
That's a good answer.
Right. Yep. And get another question here from username saying, hey, Caleb, username here. Appreciate the specificity. Somehow I got a fancy wrench now. What's your take on stock to crypto ratio with a mid to high risk appetite? Also, should I buy Link? I think just in general for a portfolio, what should your stock to crypto ratio be? It's an interesting question.
I mean, I don't know what your specific stock to crypto ratio would be. What I know for me personally and the people who I help build their long-term portfolios, I want to own assets that do generate future cash flows, whether that's through dividends, whether that's through increasing their earnings, whether that's buying back shares and generating shareholder return. These are things that I want in my portfolio to retire over the long run. I want to own companies that do have rock solid, strong, growing fundamentals in sectors that are experiencing strong tailwinds, right? Two of the top positions in my portfolio for the long run, Palantir and Google. I own some semiconductor stocks. I own some retirement stocks. I own some healthcare stocks. I own some consumer discretionary stocks like Louis Vuitton, right? These are companies that I believe in over the long run that can certainly fluctuate in value in the short and the intermediate term. But I know for a fact that I want to own companies that are generating future cash flows, right? So what's that percentage for you? How much of them should you own? Which stock should you own? I have no idea. That's up to you. Do your research, get comfortable, build your convictions the same way you've built the same conviction that you have in Link, right? You have a lot of conviction in Link. You want to be buying Link. That's the same way I feel about Bitcoin. It's the same way I feel about something like Solana right now. It's how I feel about these stocks that I want to own for the long run. So do your homework on what those stocks are and build up that level of conviction to give you the confidence to move into that space. What I know for a fact, I'm 29 years old. I want to own stocks.
Yeah. Big shout out to Crypto Archie jumping in saying, great team here. Thanks for tuning in, Archie. You guys go follow him on YouTube and Twitter as well. But I think my answer, because this is a good question, right? This is kind of a zoom out, a no-duh question. But it's a difficult one to answer because I think that in reality, the left and right boundaries on what is acceptable for people to be doing right now is very wide. It may be the widest it's ever been. For somebody like myself, I have quite a bit more in crypto than I do stocks. Probably around 75% is in crypto, right? A lot of it's in Bitcoin. Why is that? Well, it's because I have a strong conviction in Bitcoin. I haven't let go of my Microsoft, right? And that's just because of a lot of that has to do with kind of my entry point. I have been building a position in Tesla, right? I have some conviction there. I think that their pivot to being a robotics and AI company is going to be compelling with Musk behind the wheel. But I'm under no delusion. I think that there are going to be some pretty big, significant bearish events in my lifetime, and I want to be holding Bitcoin primarily during those events. And that's goes into my investment thesis. It goes into my savings thesis, right? But there's also the consideration of a lot of different other variables. The biggest one I would say is your age, right? If you're nearing retirement or you're in retirement, your crypto holdings should probably be experimental and minimal at bet, right? You should not be taking on a lot of exposure. I'm not even 30, right? Having a lot bigger of a portion of my portfolio in crypto is something that's a little bit more appropriate. You may disagree. That's fine. I'm not a financial advisor. You probably aren't either. Maybe you are, right? But it's anybody's game. I think that left and right boundary on what's acceptable today, moving into the future of finance and investment, it's wider than ever, right? 30 years ago, that 60-40 bond to stock ratio made a lot more sense. A lot of people made a lot of money trading that way, investing that way. I think the further we get into the future, there's going to be some principles that change and other principles that don't. I think, Caleb, I'm in 100% agreement. The principles that aren't going to change is your assets need to appreciate. They need to be revenue generating as well, if at all possible. And that's why I think that yield from the core blockchain for Bitcoin could be pretty interesting if that ends up being sustainable. Any more questions that you all are seeing?
I'm seeing one here from Kyle saying, speak on how to measure risk tolerance. This is a really important question, I think. And the way I've kind of tried to help guide people on this is to think about a hypothetical situation and say, what is more hurtful for you? To not invest in something and watch it go up, or to invest in something and watch it go down? Right? And I think that's a really simple kind of binary way to determine what your risk tolerance is. If it's way more hurtful for you to watch something go up that you didn't own, that means you have a really high risk tolerance and you're able to absorb losses and you're trying to generate really big returns. And in order to generate those big returns, to hit those home runs, you need to swing hard, you need to swing big, and you need to swing often, right? So naturally, if that's the case, you're going to have a very high degree of risk tolerance in order to take significant amounts of risk. If it's much more painful for you to take an investment and to lose 10% or to lose 20% or to lose 50% than it is to watch something go up 50% or double, right? Then you have a very low amount of risk tolerance. You need to control your risk with a really tailored approach with like a surgical, tactical style, right? So I think that's a really good kind of qualitative way to determine what your risk tolerance is for you personally as an individual investor. And then once you can determine that and really think like, would it be more painful for me to not make 20% or to lose 20%? Okay, it'd be more painful for me to not make 20%. So I need to find ways to stay in the market to make those 20% gains. So I'm willing to sit through some bigger risk.
Man,
and
so well said.
That right there is why it also comes down to this. And this is not one that we can help you guys with on the show. But there's also this concept of don't invest more than you're willing to lose. What is that? I don't know. Some people are willing to lose 75% of their net worth. Some people are only willing to lose 20%. Whatever your number is, you have to think about it. I think what Caleb says there is great because I know a lot of people that have that concept of like, oh, if I'd only invested this much at this time, I'd have this much money. Well, a lot of times those are the same people who are like, why did I invest in this? It's now down, yada, yada, yada. I'm such an idiot. Yada. It's one of those things that to win big, you have to be willing to also lose big. And the only way to protect yourself is to invest money that you will be okay if you lose it. Do not invest more than your bills. Like if you have bills to pay, don't go borrow money to pay your bills to invest in crypto. Pay your bills and budget correctly so that you have money left over, and then decide how much of that money left over are you willing to lose. Imagine you put it in a trash can and set it on fire. It's that simple. If you have an extra dollar in that trash can, you're investing too much. That one's going to take a lot of, if you guys want to talk to me and T-Shroom more or even Caleb more, I know all of us are able to do some one-on-one coaching with you guys. I know that's something T-Shroom and I are working on bringing out here soon. Some more trading and investing one-on-one coaching, not to give you guys financial advice, but to help you guys think through your investing journey. That's something that can be taken person by person. But for right now, that's the best advice we can give you is if you are the type of person who you heard both those things, you're like, man, I've been both those people. The ultimate answer is do not invest a single dollar more than you're willing to lose. Now that you've done that, boom, you can invest. You can put it however you want to make sure you gain as much as possible.
Yeah. And what I will say, the core pillar that a lot of people forget about risk tolerance is it also correlates to how long your hair is. And if you've been blessed with good, long, luscious locks, man, you can go all in on some YOLO plays that a lot of people can't get away with. So, of course, that's a little bit of fun. But yeah, I'm looking forward to rolling out the one-on-ones. I've been talking to Crux a little bit today about how we can get that set up. We're looking into payment processing options and different things like that. But absolutely, we're ready to take that next step, and hopefully you are too. Caleb, any last words for the bros as we kind of close out? Were there any last questions you wanted to answer, or just let the hair talk for you?
Oh my God. Let's see. Is there anything else that I wanted to point out there is. Let's go to my screen here on this. Look, we were talking earlier about kind of rotation dynamics and how Bitcoin leads and Ethereum follows, and then it ripples out into the broader altcoin ecosystem. Look, even 6 months ago, that's something I was saying also, and I've had to think a lot about this. And I think that quite literally this time is different, right? And we're seeing that reflected in terms of price. Solana is the new Ethereum for this cycle. That is where the signal is really coming from. And so what I would encourage people to do is really to look at this ratio of SOL BTC, throw out ETH BTC, right? That I think made new lows today or this morning. Solana BTC is actually up today, 2%. So, that's pretty interesting to me, particularly on a day where Bitcoin dominance is rising, right? So even in a day where Bitcoin is going up as much as it is, Bitcoin dominance is rising. Solana is outperforming it today on a relative basis, right? And I think that is very key. And so one of the levels that, first of all, we're making a series of higher lows throughout this range. That's fantastic. So now what I would probably be looking for most likely is some sort of breakout here from this pocket range. Right? And so we could see it almost kind of got there. So I'd probably buffer this up a little bit. You can continue to see we press into that zone, we get rejected. We press into that zone, we get rejected. Let's see if we can get a breakout here soon, right? Because Solana itself does look really good, but we want to see that on a relative basis versus Bitcoin breakout, right? Where did we get rejected with these recent highs? On these highs here from early 2022, when a lot of people were still, including myself, still clinging on to the fact that we were in a bull market, We had these breakdowns. We flipped that into resistance, new lows, flip it into resistance again, new lows. So there's a lot of price memory here in terms of SOL relative to BTC. We could even see the December highs peaked at that level. The March highs peaked at that level. The April highs peaked at that level. So if we can get this trend line breakout to participate with us, we could see a rally in SOL BTC from 0.0023 all the way up to 0.0029 or even into the 0.3 level. And that would be really interesting to me. And so I think if we want to spend time thinking about risk appetite, thinking about the market broadening out, people moving further out onto the risk curve, I think the main way to look at that traditionally has been the ETH BTC ratio and then confirming it with Bitcoin dominance. I think this cycle, SOL BTC has been much more effective at providing that signal, whereas Ethereum is not on a relative basis versus Bitcoin. And so for me right now, I think this SOL BTC chart should probably be at the top of everyone's list.
Absolutely. And Tim, I really appreciate that analysis. Caleb, this was really good. We're reaching the end of the show, and I realized that we forgot to do the factoid. Been out of practice. Caleb, you may not even know, but he's been sick and he has been on the show. Yeah. So there's been a dearth, a scarcity of factoids. So this factoid is going to be worth a lot more because there's same amount of demand, but lack of supply. So here we go. What year was the legendary GameStop founded? Was it 1984, 1998, or 2001, or was it 2002? Hopefully you guys studied up on this. You're going to say 98?
Yeah.
I want to say 84 because I think it came out earlier. I know there was video games before 98, so
okay.
I want to say 84.
All right, here we go. Oh man, 1984. Tim got it. Even sick. 40 years ago, GameStop at the time was called Babbage's. There was also EB Games. I don't know if you guys remember EB Games. No. They didn't even get to where they could compete with online downloading. But for those of you who are under some kind of false impression that GameStop is a good investment, there was a piece on here somewhere about the financial decline, changes in market conditions. The market for physical game media has been in a stable decline due to downloadable games. So if you guys are not gamers and you're investing in GME thinking it's going to go up over a long period of time,
it's a meme. Guys, it's a stock meme. Is all that it is. It's a stock meme.
But how are we gonna stick it to Wall Street, Tim, if we don't buy GameStop?
I think I commented on your show yesterday. I was tuning in. I was like, look, Bitcoin is a real way to give a middle finger to Wall Street.
Yeah, that's what that literally popped in my brain. How do you throw a middle finger up to Wall Street? Buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or start a crypto exchange and get sued by the SEC until you can't breathe. That's another way.
There you go. That's also it.
I love it. Well, bros, we've had some fun. Tim, do you want to lead us out here?
Yeah, I'm going to go rest my voice. I should be back on tomorrow, and then I'm leading the show by myself Friday and Saturday. You guys do not want to miss it. Thank you to every single one of you guys who came in here. Follow all of us on Twitter. Links down in description. Smash the like on your way out. Hit subscribe. See you tomorrow. Adi.
Os.
Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Army pipe, lethal on trade. Entries and exits, worthy of praise. Tim, the professor of the TA. Shout it out loud on the PA. T-Shrooms News got the word. Doing better than what he deserves. Beamer, leave no evidence. Soon fly coop with his dividend. Trying to make paper, turn that better to cake. Money like Lego, connect the dots stack bank. We are investing bros. We are investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros. Investing bros.